Imagine a world where disasters no longer spell catastrophe, where every individual is empowered to act. Welcome to our deep dive into the disaster management cycle, your blueprint for resilience. Hi everyone, right now we're going to talk about the 4 phases of emergency management. These go in order from phases that should be done in from first to last. The first phase of the disaster management cycle is mitigation. Mitigation is identifying hazards and reducing the risks of those hazards occurring in communities. The next phase is preparedness. Preparedness is when you identify a hazard or an impending hazard that's coming and potentially hitting your community. The actions taken to reduce the damage from that hazard occurring that we can't stop from happening. The next phase is response. Response is life safety actions that are taken after disaster hits to reduce the toll, the death toll, the fatalities, the injuries, the loss to properties. And then lastly is recovery. Recovery is the act after response that is used to, or the phase after response that we partake in bringing people back to what they were pre-disaster. So like I said, mitigation was looking at different types of public education programs, hazard and vulnerability assessments, and improved infrastructure. All these will reduce the risk of a hazard hitting and damaging our communities. Then, preparedness. We're looking at emergency response plans, training and exercises, and sirens. These are all prior to events occurring actions that we take to reduce the effects of a disaster. So if we see a hurricane coming and we know it's 48 hours out, we might have a siren system to warn people that a hurricane is coming. There's an impending storm, get to higher ground, evacuate. We also have public warning systems in larger cities. And then in response, response focuses on life safety, incident stabilization, and property preservation. So the way response works is the priorities are life safety, personnel safety, property preservation, and then it's unstable. We also look at this at evacuation and shelters and mass care based on whatever disaster or hazard has struck the community. And then, lastly on recovery, this focuses on debris management, economic recovery, and health and social services. So many people might be displaced by a disaster, and if that's the case, we want to get them back into their communities and back to their regular life so they can get back to work, get back to living their normal lives, and back into society. The biggest part about recovery is that we want communities to start thriving again. One of the big issues when it comes to disasters in communities, especially smaller communities, is that potentially if they can't recover, the community may die. And if the community dies, the residents have to go somewhere else to work, to live, and to be educated for their children, right? So in the recovery stage, it's very important to have a strong recovery plan in order to really develop and really sustain a community after a disaster. You've journeyed through the disaster management cycle with us, and now it's your turn to lead. Subscribe and join the movement towards a safer, more resilient world.